Good morning, friends. Happy Sabbath. Well, I've been asked to come back and share a few more of my experiences that I had in the state hospital. As I said before, through a chain of unexpected circumstances, I ended up working at Napa State Hospital. I worked at St. Helena for 25 years in labor and delivery. But Napa, I realized after I was there that it was my mission field. I was totally out of my comfort zone. But the first unit that I worked on was children's unit, and they don't have a children's unit there anymore. But they had 5 units with children, anywhere from 4 years old to teenagers. They considered them up to 18 in those units. And of course, each unit was segregated into, they had girls and boys and so forth. And the unit that I was on was a boys unit, ages 4 to 13. And it had 3 wings, and one wing was for the younger boys from 4 to 7, and 8 to 10, and then up to 13 was on the next wing. And I was the nurse for the whole unit, which means that I gave out medications and treatments. And whenever anyone misbehaved and was placed in 5-point, I had to check their belts and make sure they weren't too tight. And I was the one who decided when they could come out of the seclusion. Well, as you can imagine, I wasn't real popular with the staff. But I realized they had a totally different way of dealing with problems than I ever would. And they had a point system. And they gave each boy 10 points at the beginning of the day. And whenever he misbehaved or didn't follow directions or did something he wasn't supposed to, he'd lose a point or 2. And if it was a really bad thing he did, he'd lose all his points. And of course, when they lost all their points, they went into seclusion, or they lost all their privileges. They couldn't leave the day hall. They couldn't go outside. They couldn't join in any parties. They had to go to bed early and all of these things. Well, after observing everything for a while and realizing that, you know, what these boys really need is love. They need to be shown love. These kids came from homes that were very dysfunctional. In fact, the reason they were at Napa is because they didn't fit in any group home or even into a county facility because of their behaviors. And they were bad boys. But I decided I was going to, gradually, one by one, I was going to read stories, good night stories to them at night when they went to bed. And if they went to bed without a big problem, I would go in and tell them a good night story. Sometimes I'd rub their back, or I'd just, let them know I cared about them. And if they were extra good, sometimes I'd bring them a taco from Taco Bell. And it got so I was getting quite a few tacos from Taco Bell. And I'm not sure really how all the other staff, well, I guess I do know how they thought about it, but I didn't care. But anyway, I got to tell you about this one boy especially. He was on the big boys wing. He was a black boy, and he was taller than most of them. And he really was mean, and he was kind of a ringleader, you know. He was the one that was always instigating trouble, doing things deliberately to irritate staff, and he was always getting up in seclusion and in 5 Point, and he got sick once, and I was a nurse, and he had a fever and probably a bad cold, I don't know exactly, but as a nurse, I had the privilege of taking care of him. And I decided that I was going to treat him like my very own son. And I went in and I of course, gave him a cold cloth and water, and I rubbed his back and talked to him and told him stories. And next night I did the same. And he kind of started warming up to me, and he started asking me about, do you have children? You know, whatever. Yeah, I do. I have 3. And in fact, I have a boy your age. Oh, where do you live? And of course, you know, I didn't mind telling him. I live in England up on the hill, and all about my home and some of the pets we had and all that kind of thing. And finally one night I said to him, because he was sick for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days. And one night I said, you know, Tarvel was his name. Is it Tarvel? I know something about you. You are a leader. And you know, you could be a good leader and you can be a bad leader. And if you're a good leader, if you're a bad leader, you're always going to be in trouble. If you're a good leader, you're going to enjoy life and people will like you. And then I started giving him some ideas about how to be a good leader. And so when finally he got well, but the next night when I came on, he stuck his head out of his room. He says, "Can you come tell me a good night story?" So I went and told him a good night story. And well, then I forgot to tell you this. While he was still sick, and I told him about my home and everything, I said, "Do you know, Tarvel, I'm going to make a contract with you, and if you can stay out of seclusion and stay out of trouble and not do anything you're not supposed to do, I'm going to take you home with me for a whole weekend." Really? Well, I didn't really know what I was saying either. Well, so he started really, really being different. And staff was trying to figure out what happened to Tarvel. Well, he made his 30 days. And you wouldn't believe all the hoops I had to jump through to take him home. I had to get permission from the president of the hospital. I had to take a special driver's ed class. I had to increase the insurance on my car. And anyway, it all came together. And we had 3-day weekends at that time when we had days off. So he was being good and he was excited. I said, "I'm going to take you home." And I picked him up on a Friday and kept him until I came back to work on Monday afternoon. And while I had him home, he went to church with us. We took him over to the ocean. We took him to the redwoods. I mean, he'd never been to any of these places. He rode bicycles with my son, and we sang and we did things that he wasn't used to doing, having worship and everything. And when he came to our house, it was like he'd never been in a normal house before. He would just look at things and, "Can I touch that?" and stuff, and what's this and everything. And anyway, I know that he felt like we loved him. And so I wasn't on that unit too much longer. And I know why. You know, the staff, I couldn't treat the kids the way the rest of the staff did, and I wasn't really on the team. But I'm not sorry. But what happened is they said that they had an opening on the night shift, and I was the newest one on, so I would have to go nights. And they knew I wouldn't do nights, and so I just transferred to another unit. And that's how it worked out. But later I did find out this. Tarvell went home. He went to a group home. And I wish I knew what happened to him between now and then, but I still pray for him. And I know that God used me in Tarvell's life. And there were several other boys that I could tell you about too, but he was a special one. God is good, and if we listen to his leading, he will show us what to do and what to say.